Hi, I'm jumping in here to answer a couple of questions that have come up around the goal setting guide that I sent out recently, and specifically about the understanding what's in the gap for you and how to use the breathing exercises that I suggested. In the guide, I gave an example of getting fit, healthy and fit, and if you're having a struggle with food, why is that? And trying to figure out what do you associate that with? What do you associate maybe the junk food with or the lack of exercise with? Is it a love language for you? And really trying to identify that, because once we do that, and we get in touch with the emotion behind it, then we can maybe look at that, either diffuse the energy around that or change that energy, shift it so that we then can go on and create. And so I want to kind of take you through maybe a deeper example of this and how it works, because the exercise is so key to helping you truly get in touch with the emotion. Emotion helps us to create our goals, but it can also be the thing that we're hanging on to that can keep us or prevent us from going further and growing into what we say we truly want to experience in our life. And so it's important to get in touch with that and to truly tap into it so that you can understand it and maybe make the shift. And so I'll give you this example and how this whole process works. Many of you know that I've talked about how money had been kind of like a script that I had held on to, like a struggle of like, how do you get to the next level, right? And I had some early success in my business, and I could get to a certain point, it seemed like, but then it was like, wow, why can't I get like to that next level? What's there for me? What am I maybe holding on to? And consciously, I was very much aware of what it was. And for me, it was that I saw money as destroying my family, my family of origin. And I did not want that to happen to me and my own family. As many of you know that know me, I have 4 children. I'm very close to my children. My children are very close to each other. And family is really important to me. And I did not want anything to destroy that. So if I saw money as being kind of the thing that destroyed my family of origin, then why would I go further and try and achieve more? It just didn't make sense. So I consciously was aware of this, and I had done journaling exercises on it and such, but I knew that there was something else. I was still hanging on to some other emotion around this. So here's what I did. And I'm not quite sure where in my personal development journey I learned this, but I will tell you that this is a key process, and it is a huge process for me, and a game changer for me in my business and in my life goals. So it goes like this. You basically want to write out your story, whatever your story may be. And I label them. And the reason I do that is because, well, I have a reference point, but also because I can then kind of look at it. It's like a concrete item for me. Then I can look at it, hold it in my hand and say, okay, you're no longer serving me, and get rid of it because I've named it, right? So I call this one the destroyer. And you might have, a lot of times we have several different stories or a variation of one story. But this one, I have a variation of one story, and this one I call the destroyer. And it's called the destroyer because, as I said, I saw it as the thing that destroyed my family of origin. And so you just want to write out the facts, the basic facts of the story. So for me, my family moved out to California from the East Coast, and my dad's business was doing very well. And my parents finally got the beautiful oceanfront home that they wanted, and the pool, and all the things that went along with it, the travel, whatever. But I quickly realized that it didn't last. And eventually my parents' communication seemed to just go crazy. They weren't talking to each other like they used to. I wasn't as close to my siblings as I had once been. We seemed to just start drifting apart. And just so you know, give you a little context to this, my siblings and I were very close because we moved a lot when I was a child. In fact, I was in 6 different schools by the time I was in 6th grade. And so we had a very close-knit family because we were like our best friends with each other whenever we were going into these new schools. Well, now I had seen this as all completely changing. And so the whole story went on that basically money was taking, a toll on us, and it was destroying everything. And eventually we lost everything, right? So that was my story. And at the end of that story, once I wrote out all the facts, I could look at that story, and I don't feel this now, but this is at the time, I felt anger. I felt like blaming my parents, victim mode, blaming my parents for not, being adult enough to man up and take responsibility for what was going on and take a look at, what the issues were and opening up and communicating and why is our family falling apart? Where's your focus? All of that. So I was kind of into blame game, even though at the time I was a child, but now I'm looking at it as an adult, right? And you never want to be in victim mode because you can't create from victim mode. You can't create when you're putting your responsibility outside of yourself. So this is why it's important to get in touch with those emotions. So then after I went through all that and identified the emotions and what I was feeling around that, I went back through that story. And after every single sentence, I would take a deep breath. And I mean a deep breath, and you hold it for like 3 seconds. And then you slowly let it out because it taps into the parasympathetic nervous system. And you want to do that because what this does is balance out those other feelings. It calms you. It releases the stress so that now you can approach this from a fresh set of eyes, a different perspective. So after I did this, and I had to do this a couple of times, but when I got to the end, I didn't have that anger, that same sense of frustration. Instead, I had compassion for both of my parents. I could see them as individuals, not as parents, as adults that should have known better. Instead, I saw them as parents or as individuals that were struggling with this new identity that they were trying to step into. And so I had compassion, sadness, yes, but I also had this just a different feeling around it. The emotion and that anger that I had was completely diffused, and I could look at it as this adult, as this objective observer, really. And I realized that the money had nothing to do with this. The only reason why my siblings and I were drifting apart was because we were completely different ages. I was 12, my sister was 17. My brother, I think, was 16 at 15 at the time. So we were at different stages in our own lives. So that's why we were changing as well. And so it was no longer a money story or issue for me. No longer was money the destroyer. I could look at it now for what it truly was and what was happening and have compassion around it. So do you see how that's so important and how that breathing can help diffuse that energy? Once you can do that and you can really take a look at it objectively, then you can go forth and start to create the things that you truly want in your life because you no longer have all that heaviness weighing you down. That's why it's so important to do these exercises. And as you start to create those goals, if maybe you have a hard time, like for me, I had a hard time making a monetary goal because I had those, issues around or associated with money. And so I couldn't really make a monetary goal because I felt like it was going to be, elusive. And that's a whole nother story. But I had to look at this and change it. And so I invite you to do the same thing. If maybe it's not money, maybe it's something else. Maybe it's health and fitness. Maybe it's relationships. But you might have to rephrase that a bit. So for me, I changed it from a monetary goal to more of a client goal. So for example, if I knew I had to make 10,000 to cover expenses or 10,000, maybe 20,000. So it's to cover expenses and then for my own basic, for living or growing into a different lifestyle, then I would change it to, I get to serve 100 new clients this year. I will serve 200 women this year, or I am able to help, XYZ, right? Listen to the language there. It's I get to, I am able to, I will. It's not I want to. Want denotes lack. You cannot create from a place of lack. We live in an abundant universe. It's be, do, have. You have to step into that mindset. So watch your words there. Words have tremendous power. I will, I get to, I'm able to. And as you start to create affirmations for yourself, your goals are always going to be in the affirmative. Sometimes you might feel like, oh, there's a holding back. Like, oh, I'm resisting this. Like, I am a millionaire. Well, your subconscious might be going, no, you're not. You've never made more than 80,000. How can you say you're a millionaire, right? And this is why people say affirmations don't work. Affirmations can work for you, but the reason why you have that disconnect is because your subconscious is just stating the truth, right? And so how do you soften that a bit? Well, you just change it by saying, I am in the process of whatever it may be. So just changing the words, again, words have tremendous power. So just making a little adjustment there can be a huge game changer for you. And it will help you to then start bringing your subconscious into alignment with your conscious mind. And when these two are in agreement, it's a game changer. Things will feel in the flow for you. You have a sense of ease about creating, and creation should be joyful. It should feel easy to you, not effortless, but it should be joyful and it should be somewhat relaxing for you. Also, when you go forward and you start to create maybe your vision board, if you have a vision board for 2022, and I would encourage you to do that. I know people that create a vision booklet or like notebook where they have some of the images on one side and then they journal on the other side. You can try that. I like to have a vision board. I have done a vision, what I call a treasure chest, where I had like a shoebox and I put the visuals on the outside. And if I wanted something more tactile that I could hold in my hand, but that didn't actually fit on the board. And so, for example, a couple of years ago, I had the goal was to visit 4 new countries. And so I put the currency of those countries inside the treasure box. So just another way of doing it. But when you do that, if you have a money section on there, or business section, financial section, something about success, I would suggest that you put something on there that is flowing, like a river flowing. Abundance. Money is to be flowing, right? It's we call it currency because if you think of a river as a current, a river, currency. You want it also in circulation, maybe boats on the water coming and going out of a harbor, because that means it's flowing out, it's flowing back to you, right? It's in circulation. I'll probably go back and put sailboats on mine. I've got a river on there now, but I might actually add sailboats to that section, because sailboats to me mean ease, relaxation, and I want my money story, I choose for it to be one of ease and relaxation and joy, not this early bird gets the worm, or hard work and lots of effort, create the payoff. That just to me seems like holding on and struggle. And so I actually will. I'll go back and add sailboats to it, because it's that ease again. It's just, I can feel like I can breathe into that. So hopefully all those tips help you, and I've clarified a little bit more how this breathing works to truly understand what's in the gap for you and why this exercise is so important and how it can help you. And listen, if you have a question, I answer questions regularly on my blog. And so you're more than welcome to submit a question. Just send it to the regular email, Kim@KimKellyThompson. Just in the subject line though, please put Q&A, because Jamie and I go through these regularly and it's a lot easier to find them when we section them out into Q&A. Also, you could even send me one here on Messenger or on my Instagram as well. So with that, enjoy and happy creating.